Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. I am so excited to be here. We have so much to accomplish. We have a zillion questions. Let's get right to it. Oh, did you get the one from the other one that just came in, Shoshi? You added that to the thing? Okay, good. We're good. Okay, good. Gila, what you got for me? Let's go.
Okay, lots of questions coming in. I love
Okay.
it. Suri's asking, my husband is the one bringing Parnassa, but he has to run after parents to get paid, but he often tends to delay it, and we really need the money. He gets very upset when I ask about it, but how can I keep calm and not ask about anything about it and leave it up to him?
Yikes. So it sounds like he has to run after his parents for it.
I guess he's working for the parents.
That's awkward that it's not. Wow. And then they run out of money. And then what? Oy, oy, oy. That's not a good situation. By the way, I asked a Gadol, this is the craziest thing I ever heard, but I asked a Gadol, this is a message. So you can't say you didn't get the memo. This is for in-laws. I asked a Gadol, what is causing such a crazy divorce rate? I got a lot of different answers, and there was a certain number of neshamas need to be born before Mashiach can come, and because of, and so he tries to shter shalom bias and shidduchim and whatever. He tries to mess everything up so that the neshamas can't be born. That was one answer. I was like, oh, yikes. But the other answer I got was it's in-laws. It's the mother and father-in-law or the mother and father who are going in and messing up shalom bayis and that's creating this horrible divorce situation. I was like, whoa, did not expect to hear that. So just as a parent of children who are married, stay out of it. Do whatever you humanly possibly can to support shalom bayis in your kids. It's crucial. Even you didn't like him, you didn't like her, whatever, you wished they were married to someone else. Do whatever you can for shalom bayis. I have many shows, ladies talk shows. Look, wait, they're over here. Look them up, old shows on in-laws and how to be a mother-in-law, whatever. We have a lot of education about it, research from other Torah sources, different ways to be the stand away mother-in-law. So that's the first thing is I don't know what's going on there and what's going on behind the scenes, but it's not a good setup. You want your logistics of your life to support what your goals are, and that for sure doesn't. So the first thing, we can't fix the global right now. I'm just giving that input. But in terms of your specific thing, what can you do right now? And that is you need to obviously sit down with your husband. I don't know what conversations you've had with him in the past. And if your conversations with him in the past have been like, why are we waiting? And how come, and your mother-in-law is, your mom isn't so generous and, whatever, they've been like that. So and whatever strategy, you wouldn't be coming to me if the strategies you'd already tried worked. So think about maybe even get a journal or a piece of paper or, somewhere, write down what strategies you've tried and why they failed, if you can figure that out, and try and rethink the whole thing. What could possibly be different? Could you have it in an automatic pay system? Could you, figure out a lot of logistics situations? Could it be that you put such a large amount of money, you take it out of stocks and you put it, maybe, you don't have the money you can transfer, but you put money there so that there's always a cushion. So if you have to spend, you're not always in other words, if you're spending, let's say you're spending $1,000 a month, good luck keeping it to that, but let's say you're spending $1,000 a month on groceries, right? You can either get $1,000 and then at the end of the month, you're down to $37, or you can have $2,000 in the month. And then at the end of each month, you're just hitting 1,000 each month. If you can somehow organize your life or your finances so you can have a cushion, that will take a lot of stress out of your life. And that might mean that giving up something that, like, okay, instead of having, ribs every Friday night, okay, you can have chicken for 4 months and that's enough money. Maybe that wouldn't be enough money, but whatever, you might have to cut back on certain things. And that's tough, but that cushion is sometimes very, very comforting to people. So anyway, there's a lot of options, a lot of ideas you can think about like this. These are logistic solutions. Think of those, write those down, and have those in your back pocket. And then you're going, and for those of you listening, not watching, I'm taking my hands in the shape of a bowl and I'm handing it to my husband. And I'm saying, you're handing the problem to your husband and you're trying to solicit him to come up with solutions. So say, listen, sweetie pie, I'm very happy with our life. I'm happy with, how you provide for us and how you work so hard and how, I'm glad with the kids we have and the community. I'm really happy with my life. It's very important to not be to put it in context. If you come and say, I'm really unhappy about this thing, it's harsher and harder to hear. But if you put it in context, everything's good, but there is one nakuda, one little thing that you want to improve. And you say, I'm happy with everything, but I'm not sure how to deal with this financial thing. It's doesn't make me feel comfortable. I mean, maybe you're also not comfortable. You have to know these things. Maybe you're not also comfortable with it, but what do you think we can do about it? And you're taking the problem and you're handing it and putting it in your husband's lap. And he'll say, well, this is just the way it is. I'm sorry. This is how we have to live with it. And then you pull out of your back pocket and you say, well, what if we, had an automatic deposit? What if we had a cushion? What if we had what if we, played the lottery, and won the lottery, whatever. You get my point. You're just trying to come up with as many solutions and brainstorm with him. If he feels that you're on one side of the argument and he's on the other side of the argument, you're right and he's wrong, you're not going to see much progress. But if you're like, here is our problem, this is our issue, this is our problem, and you bring it to him in that light, then Amirat Hashem, and Hashem should bench you, that he will be able to realize this is a serious thing that needs to be solved in one way or the other. And maybe your husband's creative, maybe he's not creative, and so then your ideas will come in handy, or maybe he is creative and he'll think of ideas you never thought about. If none of that works, say, I really think we need to go speak with our Rav about this, or a strange Rav in a strange town. You can always call your sister and ask her who her Rav, and can you have a private number? There's ways to talk to Rebbeim without them knowing who you are, if it's going to embarrass your husband or your husband's family or something like that. But if that doesn't work, you need to go to a Rav or a therapist or a wise older, maybe a grandparent, maybe the parents, his grandfather, and you say, what can we do? Although that might be embarrassing to his kids, but there are certain circumstances where if you speak to the grandfather about his kids, it could help. So then it's kind of lituelis. It kind of has a reason. Okay, I wish you a lot of hatzlacha, and it's not such an easy challenge. It's not, and you're not the first one I've heard it from. Okay, go ahead, Gila. What you got?
Okay, so Sean is asking, my husband is always helping people, which is lovely, but it's at the expense of our family. I've tried asking him to cut down, but he feels this is his calling and he's not willing to do less.
He's doing chesed. What's he doing? He's giving
Yeah,
money.
he's helping out. He's a community guy. He's doing a lot for other people.
Mhm.
I guess at the time and expense of their own family. And she asked him to cut it down, and he feels like this is his avoda.
Wow. So, okay, I'm going to say something is a little blame the victim. You're going to be mad at me for a second, but just to sit tight, okay? Is that if a husband feels like it's got to be my way or the highway, a lot of times it's because the wife says it's my way or the highway. It's kind of like that's the philosophy of their home. You know what I'm saying? Is like, oh, no, I'm putting my foot down. Well, I'm putting my foot down. Whereas if a wife is much more forgiving, much more mavater, much more, okay, what do you think we should do, dear? And following where he's going with it, the husband will also genuinely be that way. So the point I'm making is I'm not sure why your husband's so stark on this and why he doesn't feel like have empathy for you. This is who I am. Not a great answer. It could be that he's immature, or it could be that you have forced him into put his back up against the wall and you not listening to him, and so he's saying my way or the highway. So you have to look at these things and be willing to own up in yourself and have the introspection in yourself to own up to ways you might be my way or the highway doing that. But on the same token, there is a ability, there's the emotions of it and you're feeling abandoned or whatever, but there's also the emotions of the fact that he is a not caring about what your internal emotional standing, and it's his responsibility. Your emotions and where you're holding emotionally is his responsibility. If you're saying, well, it's your responsibility, they ain't going to get you anywhere. But if you would have him see how dependent you are on his support, and again, this sounds very anti-feminist, and I don't even want to go there because I'm not an anti-feminist, but I do know that the last 60, 70 years has pushed and brainwashed us all to feel, strong in our way rather than, being willing to be vulnerable and to being softer, which would be more effective in this case. So for you to tell your husband that, you know, there are logistic solutions like, can Monday night and Thursday night, can he come home a half an hour earlier? Or on Monday nights, turn the phones off, that goes away, only be with the family. Try and think in your own mind and maybe make lists of things that would solve the problem for you, things that would make you feel like, oh, I get it. Yeah, I could do that. Like ways that that are solutions for you. Then you're going to have to work with him with it, but solutions for you that would work. Also, you have to think about the fact, many times a person grows up with a certain dynamic in their family. So let's say, you had a father who was kind of an absentee father, like he never was there for you, he never came to your recitals, and you were the head of your class and you gave a speech and he didn't show up, and whatever, he was just not really there for you. And so you grew up learning to love somebody who wasn't there for you. It could be that you married somebody who had that similar quality. Why? Not because you wanted that or because you would enjoy that or because that was the best for your emotional stability, but you did that because out of habit. That's how people, dysfunction follows dysfunction because people don't recognize their patterns. So before you get married, it's good to recognize those patterns. After the fact, it's good to recognize those patterns so you can see, boy, I think I'm pushing my husband away. Again, this is a lot of introspection I'm throwing at you all at once. I'm just giving some food for thought. You grab onto what you think is going to help you the most in terms of growing it to be the kind of person who has a husband who isn't she feels like she's second fiddle to him. After you've done all this introspection, after you've thought of logistics things, then solutions, then is a time to broach to your husband and say, I get it. This is who I married. I married somebody who is a Heverman and is a chesed, a mitzvah guy. That's his whole avoda in life. I'm so glad I married you. I do feel like there are certain parts of me that feel like it is not fair to the family or not fair to me or whatever. We miss you. What do you think we can do about it? And again, you're taking the problem. I've got a bowl for those on the audio, and you're handing it to him and saying, what do you think we can do about this? And see what he says, and in that way, with you having done all that introspection, first of all, Hashem will really, really help you because he gets how hard you're working for Shalom Bayis. But also the mere act of taking it from me against you and making it, what do you think we should do, dear? Hopefully, Meretz Hashem will help shift your husband to really, really want to make a difference in this area and have your emotional needs most in his mind. Okay, good luck with it, sweetie pie. Okay, go ahead, Gila, what you got?
Okay, so Hannah's asking, my husband gives me a hard time about the clothing I wear. He doesn't like most of my outfits. Every time I get something new, he makes me feel bad about it and he doesn't like it. I've told him a few times that he can come with me and choose, but he doesn't like anything even at the stores. How can I get across to him that it is so important to make me feel that I look pretty and he shouldn't give me such a hard time?
Wow. So my question is, what is really going on behind the scenes? Like if he can't even find anything in the store, what image does he have in his mind that you're not living up to? It's I'm not so happy with yeah, and the fact that he tells you that he doesn't like your things. This is a challenging one because
Sorry, Leah, I'm also wondering if it's about just the clothing or is he commenting on her body and everything else also?
That's exactly where I was thinking also, is like, in other words, there is a klala, there is a very, very firm thing. You never speak about anybody's body, not your friends, not your kids, not your, especially not your husband. Your husband has a big mole on his shoulder and you think it's ugly. You don't say, what's it? You say, if it really bothers you, you say, if you don't mind, next time you're at the dermatologist, if you could have him take it off. I'm a little worried it'll turn into something, but again, you're not saying, you're not making him feel bad about his body. Even somebody who's grossly overweight, to say, I don't, the fat really bothers me, this is the quintessential time for duct tape over here. That was duct tape for the audio. It's a quintessential time. Don't ever mention it. It sticks with people forever. And the answer when you say, you're overweight or whatever, is basically to drive someone to eat a quart of ice cream. Hopefully it's something chocolate chip. But anyway, that's where someone would go with it, the best way in these kinds of things is saying you're looking thinner and thinner, even if you have to lie, ask a rough, but for shalom, for whatever, when a person feels that somebody is noticing, and that they feel better, they take better care of themselves. So that's just a side strategy. But for this thing, I'm just worried that anything she says or does isn't going to make him happy. Like, I feel like this is like this no win-win. She has mentioned to him that it's upsetting to her. He won't go with her, and when he goes with, so I think the only way to make a breakthrough in this situation is to have a conversation with your husband, and it has to be very, very well planned on your part. Can't be just like, off the cuff, and I've had it, so I'm gonna yell. No, it has to be, you have to sit down with a journal and say how his words make you sad, what he said, what your reaction to it was, the fact that you tried to bring him there and he didn't like anything there, and you need to do some digging and find out what's going on with him. Why isn't he happy with it? Is he not happy with your body? Is he not happy with your, maybe you don't want to even ask that, because if that's true, that's sad. But you don't have to you can ask it in a way of saying, listen, when you bring to me this issue of anytime you say you don't like my outfits, I'm sorry. I'm really, really, really trying not to take it personally, but I don't know if there's a woman in the planet Earth who could not take it personally. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I were to say to you, you were to walk in, I don't like the pants you're wearing, and those shoes are all ratty. It's somehow, it's almost, I feel like it's impossible to not take it personally. Now, I will work on that and try not to take it personally, but it really makes me feel like you don't love me, or you don't like me the way I look, or something like that. Can you please, sweetheart, darling, whatever you say, so it's very crucial to say it in a way that doesn't put him on the defensive. And it's you want to say it in a way like, it hurts me. I feel so close to you, and I feel so lucky to have you as a husband. But when you do that, it distances me, and I don't want I don't want it to be that way. What do you think we can do? And hopefully either he'll think of something to do, but certainly saying it in that soft manner and planning it very, very well beforehand will be your best bet of having him actually hear it. So I wish you good luck with it. It's not an easy thing. And I'm making him look very bad and wrong, your husband. I don't mean to. He's just doing a knee-jerk reaction to something. But hopefully you can figure out a way into his heart so that he'll stop doing it. Good luck with it. Okay. We have time for another
Okay.
question?
I think we have time. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
So Faggy is asking, my husband has ADHD but refuses to get medication. It affects his time management and the way he takes responsibility. Honestly, he's all over the place and I don't know where to go with it.
So I'm not an expert in this area, and it might be very, very valuable to speak to an expert about this, or to find a book on it or an article or something like that, so that you yourself, you're not reinventing the wheel. This is a common issue. It's gotten more and more prevalent over the last couple of decades, and there's a lot of answers. There's a lot of things like, I mean, I'm making this up, but like, for instance, it could be you saying, be on time or else, and that works. Or it could be the best way to handle somebody with ADHD who's not on time is to never bug them about it, or to put Post-it notes to remind them, or get them a new watch. I don't know, but they're good. You're not the first one. This ain't your first rodeo, or whatever. You know what I mean? You're not the only person who's ever had this happen. And so I would go find as many resources as you possibly can. Again, probably the resources you're going to have are not Torah based, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. If they're telling you to do inappropriate things, like your happiness is more important than his, no, there's no Torah source for that, but that happens in current psychology. A lot of it is about self-actualization, and so you have to go into doing that kind of research with very open eyes, and make sure that it stems with our Torah Masorah. But there's scientific studies on it, and there's a lot of information to be gained from that. And that being said, it's also very crucial for you to understand that there's a reason that Hashem gave you this nisayon. We don't know what that is, and it's a big nisayon, so I'm sorry that you have such a big nisayon, but people have a lot bigger and a lot smaller, so don't worry, everyone's got their peckle. But for some reason, Hashem gave this to you, and it means you're uniquely qualified to master this issue. And it could be Hashem's demanding of you become an awesome communicator, so you can communicate with your husband. Be an awesome researcher, so you can find out the best things to do. That is your avoda. That is your challenge that you have right now. It's not your husband. It's Hashem himself gave you this test. Okay. Very, very good question. Do we have time for anything?
Nope. Time to wrap it up and give us homework.
That's okay. That's what I thought. Okay, fine. Okay. So the homework for today is, one time, think of something that's really bothering you about your husband. I'm sure you can think of a few. Okay. So think of one thing that's bothering your husband, and make a plan of action of what you're going to say to him and how you're going to say it, and then say it. So the homework is a communication with your husband on something that's challenging. Plan it well. Preemptive communication is always the most powerful and most effective. We have a lot of shows on it. Okay, that's the homework. Okay, it's Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show.